Today I'm exploring Nations at Risk. It's a massively multiplayer game where you can create your own nation, grow its economy, and wage war against other players. It's different from most of the generic browser games you see in ads like this, because Nations at Risk has a player-driven story, and the alliances in it are actively competing to conquer the world. This is a big game and there's a lot to explore, so I'm going to start with the game's features first, then look at its story, and finally, decide which alliance to join. One thing I immediately noticed was that it's very easy to catch up in this game. Nations at Risk has only been around for 2 years, unlike Politics&War, which started in 2014, Cyber Nations, which started in 2006, and Torn and Nation States, which started even earlier. You don't have to grind for years to make a difference in this game, because everyone is kinda new. I've only been playing for a couple of weeks, and my nation is already in the top 100, and I fought and defeated some rivals and pirates. Curse you, Polaris! We're beating you in PNW, and even if you have a year's advantage, we will beat you here too. The first thing I did to grow my nation was complete the tutorial. It explains that your nation grows when you level up the buildings in its 4 provinces. The first province is the capital city, and it's where you will produce all your money, as well as social and science points. The second province is the military base. It's where you increase your military capacity and produce units. The third province is the countryside, and it's where you will produce industrial points, which are used every time you build. Finally, there's the harbour, which generates even more industrial points, but also allows you to trade with other nations. There are tons of buildings within these provinces, so I'm going to give you some general advice on how to grow, as well as highlighting the buildings I found immensely useful. Coal mines are one of the most valuable improvements in the game. Not because coal is valuable, it's not. It's because you can use another building, the marketplace, to convert the coal into science and other more valuable resources. One of the first things I did was get the coal mine to level 50. Another important building is the trade center. It allows you to create 5 trade agreements with other nations. If you send these to other nations in your alliance, then your income will increase 20%. After that, try and get all your other buildings to level 15, and then the first building in every province to level 31. For some buildings, this can be relatively cheap, and for others, like the hotel, it's very expensive. I'll talk about attacking nations in another video, but if you want to figure it out yourself, then get your boot camp to level 10 or 20 and buy a lot of marines. Then visit the nations page and declare war on any that you can find. This is what I'm currently advising new players to buy when they start the game. The Alliance Odyssey helped create the list, so they deserve some credit too. How to trade. You can buy and sell resources by visiting the auction house. As I mentioned earlier, social points and science points are the rarest, and this is reflected in them being the most expensive. Some players have created Google Sheets that tell you what building is best to improve based on its income and the cost of resources needed to buy it. I'll link it in the description and credit its creator. I personally haven't used the market that much though. I've been trading with other players I met on the official Discord, which you should also check out. It's the best place to hear about important game updates, political events, and find other players to work with. You can change your nation's leader depending on what you're doing. If you're trying to grow your nation, select a leader with economy bonuses. If you're trying to grow your military, then select a leader with military bonuses. And if you're not sure yet, then pick one that does a bit of everything. I consider tasks part of the tutorial, but technically they're not. To encourage you improving all of your buildings, you will receive a small reward for reaching important levels. Like when you get your boot camp to level 1, you will earn a 100,000 money reward. The Parliament. Every day, then your nation will be prompted with policy decisions. If you lean left, you get +5 in social and science points, and if you lean right, you get +5% to industrial and military points. I haven't been giving too much thought to that though, and I just vote how I like. Nations at Risk really combines the best part of nation states and Politics&War. The roleplay events and model UN from nation states, and the competition and consequences of Politics&War. Summing up the economy. I've talked about how to produce resources, how to trade resources, and how to earn bonuses and rewards that give you even more. So the last thing I'm going to show you about the game's economy is the economy page. It shows you how much your nation is earning every day, and even breaks it down so you can grow strategically. I have way more military than I need right now, so I'm going to sell it until a war breaks out. There are also a couple of things you should know. Firstly, your nation's population grows by a small percent every day, and that increases your income. And secondly, you earn money from infrastructure, but not all of it. So, you start out with 300 infrastructure and very few buildings. So when you level up those buildings, it will sort of count towards your infrastructure, like you're using, say, 150 of your 300 infrastructure. If you add a building, you'll be using like 160 of the 300. Try and increase the number of buildings to match your infrastructure. Don't go over it, and don't fall under it. Just try and get it to match exactly. Buy more infrastructure when you need to. And that will always guarantee that you are producing the maximum amount of money that you can. And I mentioned raiding earlier, or declaring war on other nations. That is the best way to grow in this game, and I will be making another video on it, hopefully soon, on how to fight other nations, how to loot them, how to blow them up for your alliance. All of that good stuff. I have one final thing to say on the topic of money before we talk about the game's story. This video is actually sponsored by Nations at Risk. I don't think that will invalidate my praise of it though. This game is genuinely the product of a lot of effort and passion from its creator and its community, and although he didn't ask me to, I'm going to highlight their donation page. You can donate to the game to get cosmetics, such as a custom flag and an income bonus. The money goes towards improving the game, paying for the server upkeep, and growing the player base, evidently. So if you enjoy the game, you should consider supporting it. Finally, what is this game's story? Why should I log in? Why should I care? I think the story can be summarized in 2 words. World domination. It's not a battle royale though. Players aren't just fighting for themselves. They're creating alliances with their friends, signing treaties with other alliances and promising to defend each other, and fighting wars against their rivals. And by signing allies and defeating enemies, these alliances claw their way up from the bottom of the leaderboards to the top ranks. There are no limits on how large you can grow. The only limits are your imagination, your dedication, and your ability to persuade other people to help you. And when the game started, that's exactly what Digital Dopamine did. It started out as a small alliance formed by a group of friends, and over a year it grew into an awe-inspiring empire, with more players and more resources than all the other alliances combined. And then, in a few months, it all fell apart. Politics&War players discovered the game this year, and they invaded in force. They had new strategies, better coordination, and more dedicated players. Digital Dopamine and the other native Nations at Risk players fought back, but ultimately lost. Digital Dopamine was destroyed, and several new alliances were born out of its ashes. The invaders from Politics&War formed an alliance called Odyssey, and they ascended the throne to become the new kings of Nations at Risk. They have the strongest players and the most money, and their only rival is the rest of the game combined, the remnants of DD, the native player base, and new invaders from Politics&War would need to combine their forces to stand a chance at defeating them. But there is a chance. Odyssey itself proved that even the strongest empires and nations at risk can be defeated. After learning all of this, and so much more, I decided to create my own alliance and invite my friends. We may not have the largest nations, but we have a lot of members, and we are already the fastest growing alliance in the game. So if you want to explore this game with me, then I invite you to join Camelot. And if you don't want to join Camelot, then I'd encourage you to join Odyssey. They may be the evil empire, but they're a good group of people that are having fun playing the villain. They helped me out when I joined the game, and have already given Camelot some resources, just so that we can offer them a challenge sooner. If you like this video and want to see more content about Nations at Risk, like and subscribe and leave a comment down below.